Hello, everyone. I am Anna Brown from Living Joyfully, and this is episode number 350 of the Exploring Unschooling podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Pamela Riccia and Erika Ellis, as well as our special guest this week, Sarah McMackin. Welcome to you all.
Hi.
Hi. Today, we're sharing another episode in our On the Journey series, where we speak to our guests about their experiences, their aha moments, their challenges, and what they've learned on their unschooling journeys. Sarah is a member of the Living Joyfully Network, and I have so enjoyed meeting her and getting to know her and her family. Sarah brings so much joy to everything she does. Her insights and excitement about being a parent and finding ways to focus on connection while running two successful restaurants in Austin, Texas is so inspiring. I am very excited for her to be here and share some of her story on this On the Journey episode. But before we get started, I wanted to mention that we recently have been putting together an Amazon storefront. So this is a place where we can share our favorite finds and just the things that we found helpful along our journey. And that could be from books to self-care items, games, and more. It's a super easy way you can support the work we're doing and find some cool things along the way. You can check it out at amazon.com/shop/livingjoyfully. And as always, we really, really appreciate your support. So now I'm going to turn it over to Erika to get us started.
Hi. Hi, Sarah. I'm
Hi.
so excited to have Sarah joining us. And I thought we could start maybe with you sharing a little bit about you and your family and what everyone is interested in these days.
Sure. No, thanks so much for having me on. So it's in our household, it's myself and then my husband Ray and our son Eamon. We live in Austin, Texas, and Eamon just turned 7 yesterday. So, but old soul. Yeah. So his overarching, I'd say his major passion is play, and that permeates everything, everything that he does. Pretend play, and then it's really manifested into video gaming and how he even like engages with video games. So basically, right now he is like really into simulation games and sort of like, first person, really immersive, playing with them, like making up storylines and stuff like this. When he was like 5 or so, I think I showed him Laurel and Hardy. And that right there, like, sparked this thing in him, which this like dynamic duo kind of a mentality of like getting into mishaps and just having a sort of dynamic in which they're engaged like with the world, and kind of he has literally taken that up and just used that in like most of our play, because him being an only child, it's really been like him and me in a big way, right? And so coming from a playful parent, my mom, it comes very naturally for me. So that's a lot of the day, is sort of him oscillating between his screen and video gaming and YouTubing and watching all the stuff, the walkthroughs, the like just other gamers doing their thing, and then rolling that in, so that typically he likes me to be sitting with him and like engaging with the game itself. So it's not just the video game, because the games that he plays are not typically like ones that have a goal. They're just kind of these open world simulation, and then let's make up scenarios and let's make up kind of character development and stuff like that and bring it in. So he's really into that. He's just gotten close to, over the last few weeks, gaming with one of the network folks' son in Denmark. So we're in Texas and they're in Denmark. So it's a 7-hour difference. So they're gaming together typically 2 times a day, morning time here when it's their evening, but not really morning, more like 1 p.m. because Eamon is he's a night owl, just like his dad. So he is going to sleep around 3 a.m. lately, which is also how he's learning time. He keeps jumping into bed and saying, the small hand was on the 2 or the small hand was on the 3. So he's sort of like playing with that. And then he wakes up around 1 and it's right on with Theodore. So the 2 of them are playing Fortnite right now, and they're playing this game called Wobbly Life, which is really fun to hear him. He was always being an old soul and being, I think, an only child. And then being on the unschooling, like part of the reason why we unschool is because I think other kids, he was kind of overwhelmed socially, really, like when he was small, and he really loved just our play and the way that we like work together. So the just to watch him now at almost 7, or now 7, be very like comfortable and open and ready for some real social engagement. I mean, now it's like he's just hamming it up. I mean, he doesn't stop talking. Theodore doesn't stop talking, and the two of them are just like at it. So there's this whole little friendship thing happening now socially for him, which is really interesting. Um, and he loves filmmaking, like making stop motions. And he's not a big movie watcher, but it's amazing how much he's gleaned just from the few movies that he's seen. And then I think YouTube, which at first, YouTube was very scary to me as a medium of like, wow, is this what we're going to be watching? It felt like reality TV, like all the time. And which was just so foreign to like my upbringing, because it was like just shows and these like beautiful plots and very controlled, like, characters and stuff. And now it's like, oh God, what is he watching now? Right. But he has gotten so much out of it. And I've sat with him and watched, a lot with him. And now I feel, the freedom to kind of like, I could be cleaning and he's doing that. But the social and the comedic and the everything he picks up, he just then he's like finding what really turns him on. And then he's able to utilize that in his gaming and his filmmaking, anything like that. So shorts and stuff are now coming into play, which again, the YouTube shorts, you're like, oh my God, what is this doing to a brain? Are we okay? This is a scroll. We haven't gotten into TikTok yet, but he's, doing it. And I can, again, the guys that he's watching or the girls he's watching, it's like, they're so Eamon, they're so him. And when they're not, he just kind of flips it or it is. And now it's a new aspect of him. And so it like, that right there, just wonderful. It's like, it's all weaving into life. So, but the real passion that he has for the filmmaking part, at least what he said at this point, is the editing. So he loves like the filming, and then he could sit for hours and just like, he will edit till the cows come home. Music, he loves picking out like, just different, literally they're the perfect soundtracks to like any moment, right? And even in our play, he's got these Spotify playlists that are kind of vaudeville, like a little, they're very jazzy but like with like a, jauntiness, or he's got some real intense, like, savior kind of music, like rescue music or something. And it's like, that's when things go into slow-mo and we've got stuffies and gnomes, and it makes the play so much easier to do because you've got this music. So I just feel like the music, the video gaming, the video editing, all of it, like him being able to kind of control these, like the scene, it's really about that. Like he almost thinks in vignettes in a way, which is so interesting, like how we're going to make this up and then the song will change and it changes the whole mood. So he's just playing. He's playing with like everything, right? And so that would be him. I mean, right now, yeah, it's a lot of video, it's a lot of YouTube, it's a lot of the gaming, and then the pretend play with me. And then I guess just what we're into. So Ray and I, yeah, we opened up a plant-based gastropub here in Austin. Same year we had Eamon, which people think is crazy, but then I'm like, well, I don't know when else we would have done it. So actually it's really good timing that we did that, because we wouldn't have had any time otherwise. And so for the first like 6 years, I'd say, we had a GM and like we just had the team. And so I was able to just kind of like, Ray and I divided and conquered attachment parenting with Eamon. So I've been with him 100%. We still co-sleep, we still nurse, we still do it all. So, and my focus was really on like playing with him in a very immersive way. And that's just it. And so we've just continued that on, and Ray taking on over at the beer plant more. And then recently we sort of had like a little shakeup. So COVID, like in restaurants, you can imagine. So just some things have gone a little bit of like just a little funky. And so I've decided, like just in the last 6 weeks, hey, we've been trying to weather this. Why don't I get a little bit more involved? That way, I think it's just a lot to handle for one person. And maybe like, I think I need to get more in tune with this thing, because you've got, it's a lot of parts and it's a lot of people. And anyway, so my new thing basically is like kind of getting in there and general managing from the morning, and the sleep cycle has worked out so well in terms of Eamon staying up so late and sleeping in. So I can get up, get over there, come back and be with him for a bit and then get over there again if I need to. So that's a kind of a new thing right now. We're playing with sleep, we're playing with me working more, but really having all these like wonderful conversations about how life is changing a little bit, but that the beer plant kind of needs my attention right now, but he does too. So let's he and I like make sure that we really create like a great schedule for that. Because before this, I mean, really it's been the beer plant, Eamon, and unschooling. And that's kind of where I'm at anyway. Those are my like interests and what takes up most of my time. And we've got some new neighbors and which I haven't had much social stuff. So again, as Eamon's kind of blooming with Theodore, I feel like we're in tandem where we've got these new neighbors that now are coming over once a week that we've like met. And I just love them. And it takes a lot to just like really love, I don't know, like really commune with people at this age. Like, so that's been really fun to kind of open and develop my social like aspect, like that social self a little bit. And then Ray is he's my nighttime researcher. He's nocturnal. So he's like at the beer plant every evening, just helping, being a gopher and stuff like that. And then he comes home and he just researches whether it's health topics or state of the world or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of, that's where we're at right now. So anyway, yeah, I went a lot of places, but.
Wow, that was so amazing. I think that what you were sharing about Eamon, what came up for me is like, he's 7, and what an amazing, rich, deep life he gets to have, like how even a young child like that can have these really strong interests and really explore kind of like the depths of things, like human emotion and human relationships and storytelling and like all these things. And I think mainstream culture, will tell us that children that young, they just have to wait, like you have to wait till you get older till you can actually explore these things. But hearing all the things he gets to do at 7 just like gives me goosebumps. Like what an amazing life,
Yep. I know. And when you're in it too, like you don't have that perspective. Like to me, that's just Eamon, right? And Eamon is like ageless. He just really is because he's always been this old soul, verbal, like thinking about a million things. And so it doesn't even strike me as it would be different. But that's so, yeah, when you step back and you just say, wow, you're allowed to just really go to town on anything you want and all that you get back from that. It's unbelievable,
Yeah.
I love it.
I do. And I love what struck me too was the openness of your lives in that like this friendship has bubbled up now for Eamon, and you're noticing a friendship bubbling up for you alongside, and you're weaving in getting more involved at the restaurant. So it's just like, for me, that's the seasonality of life and the ability to flow as things come up. Because I mean, that is stressful that things went funky for, during COVID and the recovery season from that and figuring things out. So even when life gets funky, we have the space to let things bubble up. And as you say, we're trying this. You're working with Eamon to see, does this still feel like we're connected? Are you still feeling comfortable with this? And even if it's not, big conversations, he's very verbal. So probably you guys are literally chatting about it. But also, you can see through reactions, through emotions, through all these pieces, they're still communicating how things are feeling for them. And it doesn't make, even when we choose something to try, and then we need to morph it a little bit more and morph it, it's not wrong. Each little step is like, oh, we're going to try this and we're going to learn a little bit more about how it feels. And then we'll keep tweaking it until we hit something that feels good. And then I always add for now, right? Because things grow and change over time, don't they?
So
yes, they do.
So much. Okay, I have the next question. And absolutely, you mentioned that your restaurant business, and we just wanted to hear a little bit more about how you see running your business and unschooling fitting together into your life. If you could dive into that a little bit more, that would be so cool.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, gosh, the two things, they seem like they're so similar on like the similar track, right? Yeah. They're like this boundless, like they're never stopping, kind of like any, I don't know, it's like choose your adventure at all times, basically. And it's about listening and growing. I mean, this, like, you open a restaurant and you don't quite realize, but it's like this living, breathing thing, right? Like, and from the backside, it's like you've got so many parts. You've got to listen to the guests. You've got to listen to your team. There's a lot of support that it needs. There's a lot of creativity. It's like the same thing as this unschooling, where you wake up every day and there's no difference between Monday and Sunday, really, except for us. It's like volume on Friday night and Saturday night, but that's about the only rhythm that changes, right? So there's no 9 to 5. And so for me and for Ray, like, I think even in the beginning, it's funny. I sort of had this like realization about like balance and trying to strike balance. I was sort of like, you know what, the hell with balance for a little while. And I'm going to like the restaurant's going to take everything. It's going to be 100% for us. And Eamon's going to be 100%. And if our house, like, we live in a fixer upper it's just perpetually a fixer upper. You know why? Because we don't have the time right now. Eventually we will have the time. So I can put that aside and I can prioritize, that, listen, we really need, like, the restaurant really needs this, or Eamon really needs this, or whatever it is. But it's amazing when you're present in something that doesn't have, and also you're in like the driver's seat / like, and Eamon's in the driver's seat too. So I don't mean that Ray and I are driving Eamon at all. It's like the three of us get to kind of drive these lives, and we're driving the restaurant, but at the same time, so is everybody else that's involved in it. And so it takes this like team effort, and so many beautiful things come out of it. And with unschooling, because everybody's like involved, everyone's chatting. We run the restaurant same way with Eamon. Like, it's just, there's no, I don't know, like, we're very, for better and for worse, we're like very relaxed people. We're very, I mean, except for a little anxiety about stuff, but like all the good stuff, like, that's behind. And then very like approachable, communicative, let's work together. Like, it's kind of soft and really nice. Like, we've heard about cutthroat restaurants and the way that restaurants typically function. It's like, it's the numbers, it's the bottom line. It's, we've got managers in place and everyone knows exactly what they're doing at all times. And this is what we do on Mondays. This is what we do on Tuesdays. We are not like that, which some people can hang with that and some people can't. And a lot of people would be like, I can't do this. Like, you can't run a restaurant like that. Or with Eamon does what Eamon wants. We do it together. It works out so beautifully. He goes to bed when he wants, when his body's tired. He eats when he wants, what he wants. Like, a lot of my, adult friends, it's like, oh my God, I could never do it. They have like school vacation and they're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do this week? And I'm like, I'm going out of my mind, where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the best. So I guess the two things are, we're kind of like, it's just not counterintuitive, but like, not, I guess so, from a cultural standpoint, they're like, we're doing these both things in very different ways, but they're the ways that are authentic to us. And they work out nearly almost all the time, except for that footing, which again, I do think that COVID, I'm just, that definitely shook stuff up. And then and in life, you get those little missteps too, where you're just like, oh, things got funky, like you said, and we're gonna, get all in and just approach it just like we do every day, right? And then figure it out. So I guess the two, they really work so well together. Like, the fact that I can get up and I can prioritize my day and I don't have to be anywhere at any time unless I've made, that like a meeting time or something like that. But everything's flexible too. And the flexibility piece is just so, I mean, in some ways I feel like, not like spoiled, but like, I feel so lucky, I guess would be the word, like the positive word. It's just very, very fortunate that I'm able to, the three of us in this house, can do whatever we need to do and want to do when we want to do it and how we need to. And it's going to take like more of our brain power oftentimes, because we're the ones that are behind everything. We don't have a principal or a teacher or, I don't have a boss that's telling me, oh, Sarah, actually, don't you see that, like, your food costs are this? It's like, I have to do that. Right. So it's hyper vigilant, and you still have to sleep. So, which we get plenty of it because we get to sleep when we want. So that's just it,
I do.
Go ahead.
It's so, I find that interesting too, to think about, because yes, when we feel so empowered and lucky that we have control over our time like that. Like, but it does take energy to make the choices, right? We are empowered, and we need to make the choices of what we're going to do, or, even that we need a rest day, or we need a rest hour, or, whatever it is. But I think that can be something too with kids with unschooling. At some point, sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming to be making all the choices, right? And then it's like, oh, just like tell me what to do, or et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I think that is just a fascinating piece that we learn about ourselves, and to be okay with, oh, geez, if I just, knew what to do, I don't quite have the energy for making all these choices. Yet, I know in my case, anyway, even when I kind of felt that way, I never chose that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because the value of having the choice in my life always won out. Even because then I knew, oh, that's kind of a clue that I'm feeling a little low energy. Maybe I'm starting to burn out just a touch, that this is starting to feel overwhelming. So I need a little bit more self-care, just bring that up, rather than thinking, oh no, this was all wrong. I would rather just have like outside control over my schedule. I don't know. That might have been a weird way, but that's what bubbled up for me, because that freedom is awesome. But just acknowledging that it also takes energy, doesn't it?
What I loved and want to really point out, because, so we're talking about unschooling a lot here, which is education's pretty conventional in our society, and we're taking an unconventional look, a creative look at, we can change things up. And what I love is that the restaurant business, I mean, there are people that very much think there's a conventional way to run a restaurant, and that it has to look a certain way. And so to me, it's just this reminder of, what, all bets are off. Like, we can change anything. And, Pam, we've talked about it a lot before. Like, once you start down that unschooling path, you really just start to question all the things. And so that really, do I have to be doing it the way that, they're saying that I need to do it? And so I love that you have these two things that you're making, like you said, fit authentically with you, that you're looking at it with this new creative eye, and that you're not getting bogged down in the, well, but to run a restaurant successfully, you have to do X, Y, and Z, because it's just not true. Like, there's so many ways to do things. And so, I don't know, I love that aspect of like just bringing the lens to everything.
Yeah, I was like, as I was hearing you talk, Sarah, it was all these like paradigm shifts jumping out at me, like the paradigm shift of like, we're not doing power over, it's going to be collaborative. And, there is no such thing as a have to. We're going to just make choices of what we want to do, and they're huge paradigm shifts to make if you're coming from a conventional place. But I just love how all the things that we talk about with unschooling just weave right into all the other things we do. Like when you're interacting with, the people that you work with at the restaurant, the same principles of communication and collaboration, like those same things can apply so well. And really, I think could surprise people of like how well it can work, like to come from that angle.
Yeah. How much better it can feel too, because there's a lot of restaurant business can have a lot of darkness to it for people. And I think part of that is the convention that's put on it, and so I love that you're just rethinking all of that. And it just sounds like it fits and feels so much better for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So I have question number 3, which kind of harkens back to something you were talking about earlier, but on the network, you've talked a lot about Eamon and his play. And I loved hearing those kind of nuances of all the things he's into and how you're involved with that. But I think just talking a little bit more about how that evolved. And it sounds like it came pretty naturally to you. And like, what have you learned in that process? Or has it been like you thought it was going to be? Or I don't know, just a little bit more about that, because I'm so fascinated by the beauty of the play that you all have.
Oh, yeah. No, it's really like, it's just because it's so big in our lives. Like most of the day, like I've said, I mean, the characters just kind of come out, right? And like they're in every moment. And we just know we've got these, the stuff, whether it's the stuffies, a lot of it's characters, right? Yeah. So, and that means also that the play comes with us wherever we go. So I guess, yeah, I mean, the bond, and again, Eamon is an only child, so I take that stock, right? Now, if he had siblings, he'd probably be playing with them all the time right now, and a lot of learning would be coming from that. So families that do have more than one child would be like, that's where that's going. But as a mom of an only child, um, I could see very early on, it was like our play dynamic just worked from the get-go. So when he was very small, of course, you're playing with 2-year-olds, you're playing with 3-year-olds, you're playing with stuff, but mainly you're just playing together, right? And like at the park, it was me and him, and it's not just chase, it's more this character thing. I could just see this within him. And not that he's not him. He likes to even be him, but then maybe I'm a YouTuber that he loves and he lights up. He literally feels like that YouTuber is right there, right? So this is where just a little bit of like, I was in drama in high school and college, and it's the only, not even college. I only went to high school because it just wasn't a thing. But I'm like, this is where you use that. This is where that improv comes in, like just have fun with it. So the closeness and bond and the being able to have it in my pocket at all times, from when he was small to even now at 7. If we're out somewhere and I can see that he's like a little bored, or maybe something is like upsetting him a little bit, it's like the playfulness that we can just tap into in a moment changes everything. And so there's this constant playful energy, I think, that we've cultivated through having been either, just down on the floor with him. It's funny, yesterday was his birthday. So for a few minutes, we all looked at some old videos, right? I mean, to the technology that we have. So we're on his iPad and we just looked at a few things when he was like 3, 4, 5. And there he is, this little guy, and we're playing, and he was already such a character and already gleaning so much stuff. And he's just there on the screen. And I thought, man, we've been doing this for forever, like since he came out, basically. And it just has created this solid foundation for the two of us that, like, right now, it's a really busy time for me, which is a little bit of like I didn't want it to be this record rip where all of a sudden it's like, because then when I come home, I still have some stuff going on, or it's been, I don't want to lose that thing. And we're not losing it. Even if it's less time that maybe we don't have all day to play. We have it in every pocket. So I'll come home and I'll just be like, I'll come in and I'll be, Pythor from Ninjago. That's like, I guess that's like a really good example of where he goes. So he has watched just the season 1 of Ninjago. This is when he was about 5. He watched that, and the Lloyd and Pythor dynamic, I don't know if you're familiar at all, but if you are, their dynamic, he just took it and he ran. Okay. So these guys then can be mischievous, but also kind, and they're good. And then he sort of brought in this whole other storyline of Kai like trying to make Lloyd be the green ninja. This is a huge part of our, like, that'll just come up and we know that that's where we're at, right? So then I'm Pythor, he's Lloyd, and either we're gonna do jobs wrong or something, or we're gonna do whatever. There's no start or finish. It kind of is just always there for us to tap into, and then it fills his cup, and then it's like we're off to the next thing. And so the play is just weaving in and out of the day. The minute he gets up, it could be restart or whatever. And I just know we can read each other so well because of it. Because when you've played with somebody, I think you develop together a chemistry and like a language and this whole other kind of world template, like a place that you guys go, and a bond that just feels like so good, so tight. I feel like I know him so well, even though he constantly surprises me. And like, I think vice versa. And so play, at first it's like when I think when I just thought about like, you play with your kid. It's like, great. And then life goes on and like, whatever, like you just have these like moments of play. And oftentimes parents are exhausted by playing, and that's just it. But when it's not this like, we play an hour a day and it's this isolated time, when it's just this, you've developed these like things together, it can just be in and out of the day again. So there's not this scheduled time or that we have to fit it in. It's like, it fits into every single like space that the day allows, which is also just beautiful. So I'm so like play is just incredible. The more, if you can do even a little, whatever it is. I mean, some people they're better at like, a board game or something like that, and not maybe the pretend, but whatever way that you can, if you can inject that into the day, I just feel like it's like a bond that happens between you and your kid that like, it helps with everything. Again, those moments and diffusing and stuff like that. So, yeah, I love it. And then he's just not, just one last thing, I guess, like video gaming too, to me, beforehand, before Eamon really got into it, it would have been like, oh, they video game. Like, you just think of it as like, we're playing Mario Brothers and they're smashing each other and you're trying to get over the obstacles. It's like, it's so much more than that. Like, when you actually sit and then you're doing it with them, they are getting a ton out of that. And we've bonded over that. So then again, this is a connection piece, I guess. The play part is so big for a little kid. They're tuned for it, right? Or anything.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I would say I was not as great with the pretend play, and so had to work at it. But what was interesting to me is kind of what you saw when you do commit and kind of get in there, you see all the connections, all the learning, like all these things that are going on. Because I think when we're standing back over here, oh, they're playing with some figurines and, what are they? They're playing over there. And, my daughter, they had each other. So they're playing with their sibling. But when you're in it, you see like how the wheels are turning, where they're like connecting something from maybe something that's happened in the family with something they saw in a show, with something that happened out here. And that was always so fascinating for me. Like, that's how I could kind of get into something that I felt like was a little bit hard for me because I'm not as playful as that in real life. And so, but it was those making those kind of connections and seeing that got me excited about it, about like being involved. And same with video games, right? Because that surface level of video games is, oh, they're doing Mario Karts. But when you're playing it, you realize, one, how hard it is, two, all the things you need to be thinking about in order to do it. And so it does become this connection point and this common language and this something you can reach to, because I am all about, we can shift energy so quickly when we bring that kind of playful mindset to it, when we set that stage. So having those things to pull from is so valuable. And I've just seen that so much with you and things that you've talked about.
Yeah. I have goosebumps again from that section. That was just so incredible. It just it feels like you are speaking the language of childhood with Eamon. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get that level of connection without being able to go there. But I think it's hard for a lot of adults because it takes a lot of vulnerability to be able to be someone else and pretend something and really go there with being silly and kind of, it's kind of like you have to really step out of the role of who you are being in your real life and just give into it. But I think it's that being vulnerable, that vulnerability is what then allows the children to connect with you, because it's she's actually going there with us, and it's just so fun. And you're right about just then the shared language of those characters and just knowing all of those details with each other is it creates such a bond. And I don't know, it's super inspiring to hear you talk about play.
Yeah. Oh, well, sometimes you need to. Oh, go ahead, Pam.
Oh, you follow up with Erika, because I was going to bubble up one other thing.
Are you sure? Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just thinking, just a couple of things that have helped me to stay in, let's say, in the play zone. So we have some a lot of stuffies, obviously, but we've got some puppets, right? And so a puppet coyote who's just the best, just big and fluffy, and that's Kai the coyote. So Kai will often come on walks with us, or someone will take somebody with us on a walk, just trying to get out in nature and stuff. Eamon loves his walks. I love walks too, but he's not just going to walk, and he doesn't, and he might want to talk about everything he's seeing, and he might be someone who's oh, look at this, but if he has a character to do it in, it's even more fun. Or he can be him, but he's got Kai to talk to him. So then it's Kai, and Kai's and Kai doesn't know anything, so it's sort of well, what's that thing over there? And he's that's a mailbox. Well, what's the mail? What do you mean a mailbox? What's a mail? And then he has to go. He loves this. He lives to try to break down everything and just teach. This will be the mile walk that we do around our loop. And he points out everything to Kai. And I remember being a kid or seeing kids with grown-up teachers that come in, or even Mr. Rogers, or the old things. It's they have somebody typically, or they are someone, and they're engaged and they're real animated and they're just talking to the kids. Most of our play, when I think about it, I'd say half the time it's just talking, but we're just doing it with this playful piece to it. So maybe it's not me he's talking to, even though he loves to chat with me, but that's when we're driving and we're together. So he loves having that element of whether it's Kai or it's a little gnome we take with us. And then they can like they can talk about anything and you can bring it on your walk. Like we'll pretend again, like the Ninjago characters, we're on our walk. If we see any cracks, that means that Jay's after us, right? Because we're Pythor and Lloyd, so we're the bad guys kind of, but they love us. So it's like, avoid all cracks. Come on, Lloyd, let's go. We've got to go. And then we just jump the cracks and sometimes he gets done and that's the whole walk. So it's not like the most relaxing walk. It is so fun though. And then I'm jumping and running and I'm actually getting my exercise. So it's like, again, that interweaving and voices definitely helps. So like, I wouldn't do them here because I'm not good at voices, but to Eamon, it's like I am Pythor for a minute. You know what I mean? And it keeps me in character. Because if it's just me, I get hi. Like if I was a little guy and I was just me and I'm playing, I'm going to get bored in like 5 minutes, literally. You know what I mean? Like, hi, Eamon, here we go. But if I'm this like, hello, Eamon, oh yeah, you can like stay in that like character. And then it's fun for you and you kind of ham it up if you're into that thing, which I think a lot of us have that. If we just kind of allowed for it, it's almost like you get a little tipsy or something. Do you know what I mean? But you're not. You're just tipsy on play where it's like, oh my God, I'm being so silly. Is anyone hearing this? And it just develops, I don't know, just to see like what you find fun in play. If you can tap into what is fun for you as a grown up and maybe even what was fun for you as a kid. And I don't think I've had to go back that far, but some people might, and just to kind of like reconjure if you can. But it might be tricky and you'll find another bond with your kiddo, obviously. So it could be like that they're really into science or something and you're really into it and you guys just totally groove on that. And that's fine. It's just more if you have that playful little piece of you that wants to come out, it's remarkable how it's like this just this thing that you have with you guys, Yeah.
Okay, so number one, you took it exactly where I wanted to go. Paradigm shift for me. So that's what bubbled up when you were talking was that play can just weave into our days and the things we do. It's not, this is playtime. Right. And now this is when I go make dinner. And this is when I go have my walk around the neighborhood for my exercise or whatever. But that play can be part of those things. I don't need to. Sometimes it would be, can we continue this in the kitchen area because everybody's getting hungry and I'm going to get us a snack, but we don't, it's not a stopping point. It's not like a natural, or can my character or somebody take my turn for a couple of rounds while I go grab us a snack and bring it back. It doesn't have to be a one or the other thing, right? Like for me, that was a huge shift once my kids came home and were there all the time and we started actually hanging out together and doing things together and playing together. To see that I didn't need to be so like my mind was just like, okay, I do this and then I do this and then I do this, and it was fascinating to get more to the flow state. So it wasn't like start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. It was like things could flow and we can bring pieces here and bring pieces here. And it just brought such a different energy to the day. And I just want to highlight one thing you just brought up there too, which is brilliant, which is finding for ourselves, like the idea of getting bored with play. But yeah, finding for ourselves that little thing that helps it be a little bit more engaging for us. Like, absolutely. Just that little piece of, I'm going to filter this through a character and bring it out, right? That I have to think about that now. I have to keep engaged and occupied, so that I can do that. So that was just really fascinating for me. And again, it's going to be, if what we're wanting is to connect with our kids, it's going to be through the things they love to play with. So like you have so beautifully connected with Eamon through the care, like how you saw from when he was just the youngest child, that this is what makes his eyes light up and his heart sing. And, I get goosebumps just thinking about you two just hanging out and playing together. And like it can be different for somebody who is, more into science experience or board games, or, I love the video game idea too, because as Anna was saying, there's just so many different pieces to it, right? But when you engage with them, you see the pieces that make it shine. Like with Joseph, it was stories and characters, and I love you talking about how he's just in an open world for the most part, and you're bringing the story to that. And with Joseph growing up, it was more like RPGs. He didn't play the open world games. He wanted games with a deep story and lots of characters so that he could sink into that and play through those different viewpoints, perspectives, and see how that felt. So yeah, it's all about getting to know our kids, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. When you get it's those detailed, they're just
Right.
when you really, really listen, pay attention, and kind of just go whenever you tune in. Doesn't have to be when they're very, very small. You can tune in anytime, right? And just be like, wow, when you just really sit, which life goes by very, quickly. And the older we get, it seems to go like a day goes by so fast. But just taking that little time, paying attention, it's like, wow, those are such little gems, that then just can again, it's the weaving, it's the flow, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a couple other thoughts when you were both talking, like first just about the idea of like, I don't have time to play right now, like actually doesn't make any sense because in any moment I could just be playful about it or be a different character. You know what I mean? Like I could still get my things done in a playful way. And so I like kind of the challenge of just dropping that idea of like, there needs to be time to play and shifting to just being playful. And then the other thing I was going to mention is, so my kids are 13 and almost 12. And so I think, for me, when I was growing up, that was kind of past the point of this kind of pretend play stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But for my kids, it is not past it. And I just love that. I feel like, it could be a little bit cultural too, because I see on Roblox all these role-playing games that are there. And, teenagers are playing those still with their friends. And, it's like, do you want to do a role play? I hear them do it with their friends all the time. And we are getting ready to go on a trip right now. And I overheard them, like my heart was just bursting because I overheard them in the living room with their plushies, like talking about the trip from the point of view of the plushies, working through some of the things that they're thinking about. But just like, now this character's asking, so where are we going to go again? And where are we going to stay? And what is it going to be like? Like, what are we going to get to see? And then they're like just talking through all these things. Like, it really is, I think, just the natural way that humans like learn to process their lives is through play. And so I just love like that our lives have enough space that at this age, they still are feeling free to play like that.
I love that. That gives me like such, I'm like, okay, because we're at 7. I'm going, how much longer do we have? It's like, nope, probably a long time.
Yeah. A long time. And I think it's kind of like Erika was saying too. It's like, it's just this choice to just like take a playful attitude, and I think somehow that feels easier too for me than like, okay, I'm going to sit down and play. But it's like, no, we can just be playful and we can bring in characters and we can be silly and we can, just, I don't know, keep that energy alive. And I definitely saw, that kind of pretend play for so long with my girls who are now, in their mid-20s. And there's still a very playful energy, especially with their dad, who tends to be more playful than I am. And it's just fun to see how I think it is kind of a natural human thing that maybe gets tamped down. I'm just thinking of like my 8, like just tamp down the playfulness. But right, it's just so fun to see. And the story about the kids working out the trip, like how valuable is that to be able to have that conversation in a way that maybe feels safer than saying, I'm worried about the trip, or I'm not sure about this aspect of the trip. And so just, I don't know, it's such a beautiful gift.
It really is. And I gotta say, even like you were saying, Anna, with adult kids, Lissy will still dress up. I think they connect with friends in life too, who have that energy or ways that they connect. Like, and she had people together for a weekend for her birthday recently. And like a big part of that was playing games, right? They still play hide and seek. What's with the flashlight stuff, like where they turn off like when they come home and visit, they will still like have friends over and do that at night because it's such a great when I get up in the morning and I see all like the microwave all the lights are taped over. So it is not something that they have to lose over time. Like when it's something that's respected and valued by the people in their lives, they're comfortable bringing it with them, and they attract and find the people in their lives, as friends who will also engage in that with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really fun to think about.
Love that. Well, and also too, like, not to, like, I know we don't want to ever look at things that kids are doing now and be like, oh, and when you grow up, this will serve you well, right? But you see these things in a positive way, and you just say, man, like some of the more successful, happy people that I know, video game. I mean, they're kind of like, see, I'll be like, you too, oh yeah, I know all those games. It's like you keep in your work, in your life, if you keep that playful spirit, again, you don't have to have it to be successful, but if you've got it and it's honored, just like you said, Pam, like it's like encouraged, it serves everything when you get older as well. I think, in your workplace, people are looking for this, a brain that thinks in a way that's sort of like, there's a lot of possibilities. How do we want to play with this? So it's such a great human trait to foster, right? And like see where that can go for you too. So again, just from an unschooling.
So much, because I think it's not about it looking a particular way. We're all going to bring different things to it, but it's that playful, creative energy. And we talk about that all the time, to bring to problems, to bring to relationships, to just have that open curiosity is part of that playfulness, of figuring out different pieces. And so I do think it's this, incredibly useful human trait that we can all cultivate. And as always, our kids lead the way if we just leave ourselves open to that. And I think that's just so, so beautiful. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah. That was amazing and so much fun. I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation, and it'll be bubbling about all the things about it. And we definitely hope that you'll join us next time on the Exploring Unschooling podcast. And we would also love it if you check out our other podcast, the Living Joyfully podcast as well. You can find it on your favorite podcast player or at podcast.show/living joyfully, and come join us on the network where we can keep talking and playing. So, all right, everyone, take care. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, so much.
Bye.